Hey, John, All-Star Weekend, dunk contest this year? Come on, what are we doing?
Ooh, it's in Cleveland. It's in Cleveland this year.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I don't think the game's over.
Welcome into Triple Zeros, the anti-hot take sports show. I'm your host, Josh Buckhalter. Follow me on Twitter at JoshyBuck. Hit up the Facebook page, Clocker Sports, website, clockersports.com. Email address is clockersports@gmail.com. And, of course, follow the show on Facebook and Twitter at 30spod, the number 3, zeros, and pod. That voice you just heard was one John Collins Ford for the Atlanta Hawks, talking about his participation, his availability for the participation, whatever the case may be. Him playing, taking part in the dunk contest this year's All-Star break in Cleveland. We'll get into that in a little bit, though, because the news of the day, see, things have a way of working out sometimes. And typically, I record on Fridays and release on Saturday or late Friday night. Technically, late Friday night. Anyway, technically Saturday morning, whatever. Anyway, decided to record this one on Saturday. And that got pushed back a little bit. And come to find out, we may or may not have to be discussing some breaking news here, because it was reported by Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport and every outlet imaginable that Tom Brady officially was retiring from the NFL after 22 seasons and numerous accolades. 10 Super Bowl appearances, 7 wins, 3-time MVP, multiple. We'll get into that in a second, because it's quite incredible, the list of things that the list of his accomplishments. However, his agent recently came out with the hold on, not so fast pimping, since been pimping. Don Yee releasing a statement saying that basically, while there's a lot of speculation, he's the one to get into too much of what the inaccuracies of the reports are. Only Tom Brady will be the one to address it completely. He also said that he understands the timeline of the football business and that it will make a decision soon. Doesn't sound like it's a done deal for certain, but after much speculation, this was the first report, and again, it was taken with and ran with like wildfire. You can't really be surprised by that, though. This kind of news is going to break the internet either way it goes. Now, it was pointed out that if Tom Brady, in fact, is not retiring, that will, in fact, shatter the internet, and we will have to find some other means of communication for the next foreseeable future until we get it back up and running again, because that would just be that'd be incomprehensible. We often talk about how a Michael Jordan "I'm back" tweet now would break the internet. Tom Brady unretiring tweets and within 24 hours or whatever, how long it takes. You kidding me? That'd be insane. So anyway, it's just a whirlwind, right? A whirlwind right now of things going on, because it's Brady's a highly pick 199 right in the draft. Had to split time in college with Drew Henson, who right? So I remember Drew Henson. Michigan went to Dallas. They tried to make him the guy. They were going to groom him. Dallas has long had that quarterback that they were just grooming to be the next guy after they had Aikman and all that, and Tony Romo. Dak is that guy now. Like Drew was one of those guys, and it did not work out. But anyway, Brady, 7-time Super Bowl champion, 5-time Super Bowl MVP, 3-time NFL MVP, 15-time Pro Bowler, NFL's all-time passing leader with 624 touchdowns, NFL's all-time passing yards leader with 85,520 yards, and the most career wins. Listen, there's a lot of debate about who's the best quarterback ever, and I'm heavy on the nuance when it comes to GOAT conversations and best ever versus greatest ever. I do think that there is a distinction. And if you want to tell me and you want to argue that Aaron Rodgers is the most talented quarterback you've ever seen, or John Elway, my personal pick, is the most talented quarterback you've ever seen, that's fine. But you can't tell me that any of them are better than Tom Brady when it comes to the game, right? The actual point of what they're doing out there. They're not out there just to accumulate yards and look good doing it. They're out there to win games. And I think that's an underappreciated quality when we talk about those things, and when we talk about being able to do stuff that's not always pleasing to the eye, right? It doesn't always show up in a way that you would necessarily expect. Like, for all the glitz and glamour of Aaron Rodgers, look at how everybody's piling on him now for how he had to bow out of the postseason. So Brady, what he's done, 22 years in the NFL, 10 years between Super Bowl appearances at one point. Like, it's insane. Led the league in passing touchdowns this year with 44, and just an incredible career, right? 2 franchises to the Super Bowl. First year with Tampa Bay, he went torn MCL? I don't want to say ACL because I don't think it was ACL, but he had partially torn knee ligament. Didn't know the playbook, didn't have a summer training camp. Just learning his teammates and went out there and won a chip. Like, GOAT stuff, right? And if this is it, man, it's one hell of a ride, and one hell of a way to go out, just like Tom Brady, without really much of the fanfare and the farewell tour that folks are saying that he was trying to avoid with all this. Now, again, nothing is official because his agent has said that it's not the case, but it is kind of cool, like I said, that things worked out this way, that the recording got pushed back and got to discuss Tom Brady. Potentially, got to put that disclaimer in there before folks try to say anything otherwise. Potentially, Tom Brady has retired from the NFL as the GOAT. Man, I don't know how you debate it. Look, we could do it another time. Not right now though, because at this point in time, I can't see anybody knocking me off of that thought process that Brady is in fact the GOAT of the NFL. You want to talk about other sports some other time too? That's fine, but I'm sticking to this right now. Brady the GOAT. Period. That does create a vacuum in the NFL, and some of the teams that probably aren't challenging for that mantle just yet, but there is a lot of news. The NFL has the hiring process with executives, front office, and head coaches is in full swing. The Bears, Giants, Vikings hired their GMs. Bears hired Ryan Poles from the Kansas City Chiefs. Giants hired Joe Shane from the Buffalo Bills, and the Vikings hired Quantum Mensa. I'm butchering his name, so I got to make sure I get that right before we go. But they've hired their GMs to head their new operation. That's interesting. With the Giants, ended up hiring Brian Daboll. Joe Shane was obviously very close to Daboll, coming from Buffalo, so that one made sense. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, I did not want to butcher it anymore. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah is an analytics guy, finance guy that caught on with the Browns and is now going to be running the Vikings operation. And the Bears, which have the Kansas City Chiefs, well, again, this time going for an executive and not a coach. in Poles, who has experience under Ballard, comes highly recommended from a lot of people. And come to find out, apparently is a guy that I guess Trace Armstrong's recommended. I got to look that up a little bit more, but what I'm hearing out of there is a lot of the process stuff that people had a problem with is not really the way it was going down. We'll see if that ultimately is the case, but it turns out that reports are rather that Bill Polian was not happy with how he was cut out of the final process, and that he wanted somebody else in opposition to who ultimately got hired in Matt Eberflus to run the Bears on the field now. And honestly, whatever. We do this every year, and people love some and hate others, and half the people are right and half the people are wrong. That's just the way it goes. And that's not all half on either side. That's just the way it goes. So I'm not ready to actually, I can't really say that anything other than okay. So the big thing let me put it this way: the big thing that got me over the Bears is the agency that Poles and Eberflus had. Everybody was complaining about how he picked him so fast. There's no way this is his guy. Same agent. That agent, Trace Armstrong, a guy who everybody wanted the Bears to hire to run their organization. Like, it's funny how so many of their complaints, so many of people's complaints, fan base, it's just fans. Fan is short for fanatic. And so it comes out in all types of situations like this where the overreaction really beats what's actually happening. And I was telling people the entire time, and I wrote it for Last Word on Pro Football, that it was yielding quality candidates. Let's see if they pick the right ones. And even if it wasn't mine, which it wasn't, none of them, neither the GM nor the head coach was the guy that I had hoped they would hire, doesn't mean I'm upset about it. Doesn't mean I'm excited, but I'm not upset about it either. And I did say that indifference is probably worse than feeling one way or the other. But I don't hate it, and I think that is a good thing, if for what it's worth. We'll see. This is all I can say. Now, there are rumors that they are hiring Luke Getsy, the Packers passing game coordinator, to be the offensive coordinator, and so if that works out for them, then fine. But there's still a lot of questions because it's the Bears. With the Giants and Brian Daboll, people who are upset that he didn't choose the Bears didn't go after him. You can only hire the guys that want to work with you and work for you, and it seemed like, from what I was reading, that Shane wanted the Giants' job, and if Shane wanted the Giants' job, guess what that meant? That that Dable is probably going to go as well. He was also finalist in Miami. Miami's now looking towards Kellen Moore. And after the game that he had in the playoffs, I don't know how that's possible, but that's not even the weirdest head coaching interview that we were talking about in a second. You also have the Broncos hiring the Packers offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett, which has led to speculation that Aaron Rodgers could be traded to the Broncos. Here's my thing. Here's my wild theory, and I know it's not going to happen because there's a lot of reasons why it won't happen, but Brady should go, or Rodgers rather, should go down to Tampa Bay. Now, he can't follow Tom Brady. Let me get that out of the way. He can't go follow Brady, but he wants control in a quarterback situation where they're going to do what you want them to do to get you the pieces that you need. That's the one. Now, part of the reason why Brady is retiring, some say, is, quote unquote, if he does retire, is because of the facelift that the Bucs are about to have to undergo financially, and obviously on the roster then. And that would probably keep Rodgers from going there. But the Broncos thing is a very much realistic situation with Hackett going and the Packers having a path to get back to bringing it back. But if you bring it back, are you better? And I don't know if you can. They can bring it back. Can they improve? That's the question. Maybe you said their offensive line is a little bit healthier, but I don't know if that was necessarily the issue when they went out. I don't think that was the issue. So I think it would be hard pressed to put that issue on the offensive line. If you were to go back and watch that game against the San Francisco 49ers there. So as much as Rodgers did get pressured, I just don't think that was the root cause of why they went down. But the weirdest one has to be McCown getting interviewed for a second time now in Houston. Now, I told you last episode that the Houston Texans wanted people to want Josh McCown as bad as they wanted Josh McCown. They wanted somebody else to interview him to put some legitimacy to what they were doing, interviewing a guy whose experience, the extent of his experience, is coaching his son's high school football team. They're going to bypass a lot of other qualified candidates after they just jettisoned a longtime NFL assistant in David Culley after one season and all the turmoil and stuff that he had to go through. Like, it's Houston is the quintessential poster child for the teams that I talk about that are just destined to be farm systems, because who wants to play for that for any long period of time when this is how you operate? That's just sloppy. Now, winning changes everything. The right hire will fix a lot, but the reputation that you have is hard to shake even if you do get it right once. Like, even a garbage can gets a steak, so people will still have that skepticism until you sustain a level of stability and professionalism that I think that they've kind of lacked. Even if you want to talk about the players and Deshaun Watson in particular and kind of stuff that they get into, that's fine, but it's a symptom, not the cause, right? Not the infection. And so, yeah, that's just McCown is an interesting choice. Just an interesting choice. There's so many other coaches. One team that has hired a coach that probably should have gone another direction, Charlotte hired Ben McAdoo from the Giants. Remember that? Remember how that turned out with the Giants up there? I don't know what made them think that they wanted to hire McAdoo to be the OC, but I'll also say this: at some point, it has to be Matt Rule. It has to. At some point, it has to be Matt Rule, because you can't keep going through offensive coordinators and quarterbacks and personnel and all this and blaming everything else and not say that it's the head coach who's gone through and was supposed to come through and change the culture. And maybe that's why he keeps getting another chance, but we've seen how that plays out when that guy keeps getting shot after shot after shot. Tell you how it ends up, they get fired. And then you get people doubting your process and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see what happens with them too, but I just did not like that. Now, the other big news, the other big stepping away, also in the NFC South, Sean Payton stepped away from the New Orleans Saints. Now, he was careful to not call it a full retirement. He will be stepping into the TV booth. I believe it was with Fox. His deal is, but he was careful to call it a break, a hiatus, I guess, and has said that he might come back to coaching. And he also opened up the doors to the possibility of it not being with the Saints, which, of course, naturally has led to people speculate that he could be the guy to lead the way out in Dallas. Now, here's something that complicates that even further. Dallas was at risk of losing their defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn, because he was a hot name on the coaching cycle. Even had was a finalist for the Bears job. Many thought that he was going to be that the Dallas should go ahead and make the move with Mike McCarthy, because it's Mike McCarthy. Jettison him, get Quinn in there to make sure he didn't go anywhere. Well, Quinn is now back on a multi-year deal. My question is, even if Payton comes back, what do you do with Quinn now? Like, is Quinn? I don't know if Quinn stays there or just on a new deal. Does it come with some kind of guarantee that he could be the next head coach? Did it come with something that he'd be around even when Payton took over? What is that? How does that look? Right? Is that a co-head coaching deal? What does that look like? And honestly, Payton might just be gone. Like, I don't know why he would come back to the Saints. That's always a weird thing to me. Is he can come back in a couple weeks. Yeah, he could. But by that time, you probably have tried to move on enough to the point where you don't want to go back in that direction. Now, maybe it goes so poorly that you do, but what if it's successful? Why would you want to go back and go back down that path? Now, a lot of theirs is financial decisions too. You see where this is going? That forces a lot of people's hands in sports, honestly. So that's just a lot of guys stepping up. Brady and Payton are probably two of the most noticeable faces and personalities in the NFL in the past decade plus. Obviously, 20 plus years for Tom Brady and Payton as well. Payton was a former replacement Bear, so local connections. And that's led to speculation that he could be the Bears head coach. Reportedly, they did discuss trading for him, but that was not happening. Nobody's doing all that. They don't even got the capital to do all of that, and that would be silly anyway. But just a lot of change going on in the NFL, and so. Man, as we keep an eye on the rest of the head coaching openings, I hope I didn't miss anybody. If I did, I will address them on the next episode. But it was just that Brady news kind of threw off a lot of the things that I was going to talk about. And so we got a lot of other stuff to get to before we keep going on here. Real quick, Leslie Frazier. That name disappeared real quick, huh? 13 seconds. That's all it took for it to fall away. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I tweeted it out. You can follow me on Twitter at Josh G. Buck. Follow the show, 30s Pod. Yeah, Frazier's fall took 13 seconds. If anybody would have hired him after that, that would have been just like the Bears hiring Matt Nagy after the exit that he had. Now, you can say they hired Eberflus, who had those back-to-back losses to the Colts, or to the Raiders and to the Jaguars. The offense stalled them out, or the offense did not bail them out, didn't help them at all, rather, against the Raiders. And against the Jaguars, they have historically struggled. It's not an excuse. It happened. Neither one is an excuse, but that's what happened. And so you hope that it's different now. Obviously, with the crack staff around you, that changes a lot of stuff and makes things a lot better. So we'll see how that all turns out, just to bring it back to the Bears. Joe Burrow won the 2021 Pro Football Writers of America Comeback Player of the Year award. And the man is snapping. He'll be taking on Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship game, and the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game on Sunday. And honestly, Joe Burrow's that dude, been that dude. And I think we talked about it when he won the national championship at LSU. If not, we should have, because I was a fan then, and whatever. Twitter, you would have known. Follow me on Twitter, Josh E. Buck. Joe Burrow this year, 4,611 yards, 34 touchdowns, 14 picks. Remember, he only played, one game last year? What did he play last year? No, he played 10. Okay. Before he got that gruesome knee injury where he destroyed that bad boy and that offensive line. And he got sacked 9 times in that game against the Raiders. And so, Joe Burrow is that dude. And what I mean by that is when you have a quarterback, it provides you a Band-Aid with a lot of stuff. And not only do they have a quarterback, but then they provide him with a top-notch weapon in Jamar Chase. They already had 2 other weapons in Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, and they still went out and got him another weapon because he wanted it. And it's worked. The plan that the Bengals have shown you that they are there. It doesn't have to take you years. Remember when Matt Nagy got hired in the Bears? I know I keep bringing it back to the Bears. I'm sorry. But when Matt Nagy got hired with the Bears, they said it takes 2 years to install an offense and get things going. They gave him, 4 or 7? What is he? 7, 18, 19, 20, 21. All right, he got 4 years. After the third one, he should have been gone because your 2-year plan was off and it doesn't take that long because we saw signs last year. So that's, I think, where my admiration for what Burrow brings comes from, is that the ability to turn a franchise around just by his presence. They wouldn't have brought in Chase, right? They've even started to try to rebuild the line. They got to do more work, but I just am a big fan of what Burrow brings, and honestly, that's a well-deserved award after the year that he had last year. Staying, I guess, semi-quasi in the AFC North, OBJ reportedly told Von Miller not to come to Cleveland when the two met last offseason. Miller was looking for a new home, and OBJ told him not to come to Cleveland. I don't know how else to put it. And now they are teammates in L.A. fighting for a chance to go to the Super Bowl, while the Browns are debating what to do with their quarterback that they swore up and down was not the cause of the problem and was the franchise. And now they don't, they might be stuck with him in a very, again, Bears-esque situation like with Trubisky. And again, the Miller people who doubted OBJ had to eat crow. Miller started to come alive as well. And that's just foresight. And I think that if you weren't blinded by your dislike for Beckham for whatever reason, you probably would have seen that it was not Beckham that was a problem in Cleveland. And I know his father didn't help by piling on. I've said the same thing about Cam Newton. We see something, I guess, not as much because he's pretty respectful. Trae Young's father is pretty nice in the NBA, especially compared to the NFL fathers. NFL fathers have been kind of wild and out there. I get it though. That's what you do. I've never understood people let the perceptions like the Ball brothers in the NBA. Why do you let the fathers' words impact your perception of the kid and how they play, how the child, the son of the offspring of performs? I've never understood that. It's a weird way to go about it. I don't like the way that your father talks, so you suck. That doesn't make any sense. And so, it's clear now that it wasn't OBJ, and the fact that he's got a chance to help the Rams get to and possibly win the Super Bowl is just a cherry on top for what has been one of the most discussed players for all the wrong reasons in recent years. Antonio Brown, going from one often discussed, whatever, much discussed player to another. Antonio Brown is stumping to join his cousin Hollywood Brown in Baltimore with the Ravens, and Lamar Jackson reportedly supports it. I'm getting tongue tied now. And maybe, I guess, I stumped for that. I said that a couple of years ago. When they got Hollywood to bring him along properly because he wasn't ready to be a top flight number one receiver. They got Rashad Bateman in the draft, and I like him too, but he probably still isn't that either, even at his peak. You bring in AB, physically, he can still be that guy enough to where those other guys are in their proper roles. Chemistry-wise, don't do it. Just don't do it. They got a tight-knit group there in Baltimore. Everybody that comes in seems to get along. Don't ruin that by bringing in somebody who's going to clearly disrupt wherever he goes. That's just what AB has done everywhere, every which way. You could say he was right about the situation that he was in, whatever the case may be. It did not go well, did not end well, and that's just something to avoid. And talent-wise, again, it's still there. I just don't see that working out for a team that's still pretty young overall, even if they have some age in some key areas. As for the picks this weekend, it's only 2 games. So, not going to be hard. You have the 49ers and the Bengals, and then you have the Chiefs and the 49ers and the Rams, and then the Chiefs and the Bengals. I don't know what made me get that all confused. And I'm going with the Chiefs, and I'm going with the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan is 6-0 against Sean McVay. It's a very, very Aaron Rodgers-like situation. McVay's team has Matthew Stafford now, and that's a big difference. But some of those wins came with Matthew Stafford too, so we can't quite put that on there. And then for the Bengals, as much as I admire what they've done, same thing like I said with the Bills last week. You got to go up against the big dog, right? Until you can't be the man until you beat the man, and the Chiefs are the man right now. 4 straight AFC Championship games. They, despite starting the season with their first time going falling below 500 in Patrick Mahomes' career, they're still here. Joe Burrow probably got next, or he's got a little part of what's coming up next for now with Patrick Mahomes, but it's still Patrick Mahomes' time. And I just, as much as I wouldn't mind seeing the Bengals advance, I think this is still the Chiefs' game to take. And if I got to pick a matchup that I want to see Chiefs Rams, and if it is the Bengals, then I want to see them face the 49ers for that 1980s feel to it. But other than that, I mean, I don't really. Just have some good games. They're not going to be able to live to last week, but that's fine. Just have some good games. And the added intrigue, I think, of that Rams game. I got to go back to that too because I got a little clip we got to talk about. That maybe should be nothing, but it became something. And we're talking to reporters a couple of weeks ago, week 18. George Kittle was discussing how it's going to be a physical game between the 49ers and the Rams. Said it was going to be a body bag game. Rams coach Raheem Morris said that, they took note of that. I don't want to say offense, but they noted it, and they didn't appreciate it. And it's their turn to repay them that favor because the 49ers did win that game. And George Kittle made sure that he, in his press conference, addressed that situation. Kittle's just the man. Here's Kittle.
Actually, my favorite thing was I'll just give you guys this because it was fun. Apparently, I used a body bag quote that they used in their locker room this entire week, and I was saying it was for both sides of the ball. Whoever it is, Rams or Niners, someone's leaving in a body bag, and we go down 17-0, and I had 5 guys chirping me in the ear that, hey, you guys are putting you in a body bag, Kittle, and I was like, a lot of time up on that clock, boys. And hopefully I can see them again because that was a fun body bag game.
So there you have George Kittle talking about the body bag game. It's going to be a fun body bag. That was a fun body bag game. And look, man, I like it. I like Kittle's personality. I love the ending. Let me double down on it real quick. Also, if you're the Rams, you can't let a team come in there with Jimmy G, who I've noted can suck for the entire game and then pull out a play that you just happen to need, like fighting George Kittle to get that drive at the end of the last game against the Packers. Jimmy G's a timely good. Jimmy G's probably the closest thing we have to Trent Dilfer. Jimmy G is the closest thing we have to Trent Dilfer in the NFL right now. That's a good one. I'm gonna put that on there. That's gonna be one of the key points. Jimmy G is Trent Dilfer when I put the promo together for this video or for this recording. Jimmy G is Trent Dilfer because he's mostly handing the ball off, but when you need him to make a play, he's probably gonna make a play. That's what's gonna happen. And when he plays, they win. And if that gets him a championship, then so what? So be it. So be it. Love that though. Switching gears now. The NBA is nearing their trade deadline, and we have a lot of rumors going on. And one of the big ones has been around John Collins. And I'm gonna start with. I usually end up with the teams that I cover because local news. I don't know. I'm supposed to do the locals first, but I end up doing that last. Usually. Starting off here, though. One of the biggest names has been John Collins, and there's been a lot of connection with him and Ben Simmons and C.J. McCollum and all that kind of stuff, right? All these names have been floating around. And for the Hawks, at least, having won their 6th straight game, I'm not sure that the trade chatter is as warranted as the health chatter. And I wrote about this for Soaring Down South a while ago, that now that was it more health than it was performance? Or was that, were they hand in hand? That seems to be the case. As guys have come back, they're in their proper roles, they're feeling, they're functioning better. And they've even been able to withstand some minor setbacks in that regard because they've had more guys available to them. Saw the stat that it was the first time that they had been without anybody on the injury report since January 3rd of 2020. Like, insane amount of time just being beat up and battered. That being said, though, I do think that there's going to still be some moves made because I don't know what parts of these are going to be consistently happening when you need them to happen most. A lot of what they still get is based off momentum and movement, as I was on the Hawks Beat podcast with E-Dub this week. A lot of what they get is based off momentum, and I think you need that 20-point-per-game guaranteed guy when it comes down to it in the playoffs, when they lock you down in the half court. I don't know if the Hawks have that yet. Bogdanovich was looking really good the past couple of games, so maybe he can keep being that dude because I think he's come close both games. He had 19 last night, so I just want to see them reach that potential again because I had them in high regard this year. I was upset they had so many teams above them, and they proved them right, me wrong. Mea culpa. Stephen A. Smith said that he would pick Darius Garland over Trae Young. That's asinine. But the trade, there's only so many people that would be upgrades for this team. And I don't think enough of them are available right now for the right price. It's a very delicate situation, chemistry in the NBA, and I think that's why whenever I hear this trade chatter, most of it I laugh at because people mock trades. They mock the fan trade proposal. But when you hear some of the stuff that's been bandied about in the NBA, it's just as bad, if not worse. And like the Knicks are now trying to move off all their guards that have helped them, that they re-signed and signed in this offseason or whatever, because they want to play Cam Reddish. Why'd you give up a pick for Cam Reddish when your wing rotation was so deep in the first place? With Tibbs. Talks to Boston wanting to do something, but not wanting to break up Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. They just got smoked by the Hawks on Friday. Like Tatum looked horrible. 5 turnovers. He was awful from 3. You got to do something. But at the same time, what's the right something? Because honestly, as I've had discussion many times with people, Boston really just needs a point guard. But because they look so lost a lot of the time. They just don't know how to get themselves set up, and they just get to chucking up shots and doing stuff. Just doing stuff. I said this when they hired Ime Udoka after promoting Brad Stevens, and really was about Brad Stevens. That was a mistake because you promoted a guy that didn't really earn it with his performance on the court. He didn't get him a championship. What made him worthy of being a front office guy? If anything, he had shown an inability to work with star players, and that would have been a concern. And now they're just back kind of treading water. So we'll see what happens with them, too. But, again, just the trade chatter in the NBA is always funny to me because there's definitely a fine line between tweaking your roster for the better and just throwing your chemistry all the way out of whack. Cole Anthony has reportedly said that he will enter the dunk contest. And at 6'3" and the point guard, that's interesting entry because I don't think many people really associate him with that. But, I'm all for personalities because I think personalities make it a little bit better than just simply athleticism. We've seen some great athletes go in there and be dry and not inspiring at all. So Cole Anthony's personality would make for an interesting watch, and I would definitely be entertained to see or be interested in seeing would make for an entertaining watch, and I would be interested in seeing. There we go. I was like, something about that seemed off. And I'd be interested to see what he would do. Just what kind of bunnies does he have? What's in that bag dunk-wise? Because I don't know that we've gotten to see much, really, from him in that regard in the NBA. But another person who wasn't as committed to the dunk contest as Cole was Hawks forward John Collins. And just let's take a listen to what John Collins had to say after their win over the Celtics on Friday night.
Hey, John, All-Star Weekend, dunk contest this year? Come on, what are we doing?
Ooh, it's in Cleveland. It's in Cleveland this year.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Well, crickets.
You got to check back to me on that, guys.
Yeah,
but,
I think we just lost your signal. Yeah.
Yeah.
John, congratulations, 6th straight win. You guys are playing great. Can't wait.
Cleveland.
Can't wait to see you Sunday against the Lakers. Big one for you at State Farm.
Appreciate you guys. See you soon.
Thank you,
Always
John.
appreciate you guys having me on, man.
So as a Bulls fan at heart, that speaks to me. That speaks to the Joakim Noah fan in me. I love that for John Collins. John Collins reminds me a lot of Joakim Noah in that a lot of what he does is based off of energy and effort as well. And last game, he had 21 points, tied with Trae Young for the team lead, 9 boards. And I think what we've seen from John Collins is a focused effort to do 2 things, attack the boards and score the ball. And I've talked about this, that I think a lot of what caused his problems with his not being satisfied with his role was he was doing a little bit too much on his own. Just focus on doing those 2 things and look at how much better it's worked out for them over the past few games, especially for him. And again, last game, 21-9. But that was harkening back to Joakim Noah talking about Cleveland. What's good about Cleveland? I'll never hear anybody say they want to go to Cleveland. Joakim Noah's rant is epic, and I'm going to retweet it when I find it on Twitter. Again, follow me on Twitter at Joshy Buck. But I just love that response from him. Now, again, I don't know if he's meaning in disrespect to Cleveland, but as a person who is in the Midwest, you know what I'm saying, or listen, it's cold. It's cold in Cleveland. It's cold in Cleveland. Not in Cleveland, but it's cold. I'm not in Cleveland, but it's cold in Cleveland. I'll tell you right now. Wintertime up north is not anything like what they call cold in wintertime in the South. It's just different. Different kind of cold. Different kind of weathers. And so it's funny. John Collins is definitely a personality. He's been, again, at the heart of many a debate about being traded, like I said. Think he's the heart and soul of that team. I'd hate to see him go. Hopefully he can keep up that kind of play like he had against the Celtics, because I think that if he does, they won't do anything because they really do have enough pieces when everybody's performing up to their level of play, up to the top level. They just have to do that part consistently, play up to their top level. Joel Embiid paid Luis Alvarado of the New Orleans Pelicans fine. Yeah, after the game, they 2 got into it and they were drawn back and forth, and Embiid basically just said that he liked that Alvarado did not back down, and so he paid off the fine. I just leave that at that, I guess. Yeah, just gonna leave that at that. The Hornets dropped 158 points after a loss to the Hawks this week. Meanwhile, the Hawks are streaking. I told you about Stephen A. Smith saying that Darius Garland is better than Trae Young, and he would have him as an all-star. People are mad that the Bulls did not get Zach LaVine over Trae Young. I talked about this a lot, and I don't know if people have been paying attention when I write it. It's on Twitter. I've shared it, so it's not just me saying it. Trae Young is having a historic season. Like, it's not just like a good season. He's having a historic season. And I know the Hawks haven't been as good as people hoped, so they want to take that out on him. But it hasn't been him, people. I promise you that. I promise you that. There's been moments where he hasn't been great, but it hasn't been him, by and large. By and large, he's been the reason why they've been competitive in most outings and have won as much as they have. So please stop trying with the slander. And as we know, Stephen A. Smith, the Skip Baylesses of the world, they get by with bigging up somebody else or slandering somebody else to big up another. And it's unnecessary, and that's what I think this more was than anything, but it was unnecessary. I do hope, though. Let me say this. This is also a moment for me to say a mea culpa about Darius Garland. Because coming into that draft, I was hoping that the Bulls not take him. I was like, he's got hurt, and we don't know about his health, and they don't need another guard with knee problems. And well, my man's a beast. And the Bulls were up until this season searching for a point guard, right? They had to go out and trade for one and spend a lot of money on two to make it work, and then drafted another one. So mea culpa, full blown mea culpa on Darius Garland. My bad, man. Buddy bad. Like Buddy's a killer out there on the floor. Like okay, that's a bad man. All right, my bad. I apologize. Gotta own it when you were wrong about something. I was definitely wrong about Darius Garland. And then finally the Bulls. They fell to the who did they play? See, I already blacked it out. They fell to the San Antonio Spurs on Friday on the road, but they had a lead in that game when they let it go. And second half of the game, San Antonio just pick and rolled them to death. And a lot of people, including myself, were piling on Nikola Vucevic. And then others came to his defense and pointed out how the guards have to help him out. I will say it's both. And I don't mind either one catching some slander here. Vooch is definitely slow to react on anything defensively, and he doesn't put up much resistance even once he does react. And then the guards, IQ, tends to wane if it's not Caruso and Ball. And that's what you expect when you don't have your starting 2-point guards who are both defensive-minded out there. But I'm not of the mindset yet that they also don't need to make a trade. Because when you get to the postseason, as they will, no matter what seed they get there, that they will get there, teams are going to do exactly what San Antonio did and pick and roll Vucevic and LaVine to death. And you tell me you're not putting them on the court? You're not going to leave them on the court? So they need people that can make up for them. You can do that when Ball and Caruso get back for LaVine. Who's making up for Vooch? Javonte Green is good. He's in the playoffs. That size is going to matter. I promise you it will. It matters every year. Vooch is going to be a problem. That's why we can talk about it being the guards too, but the one that they have to address is Vooch because they already have ways to address Javonte Green and Ayo and Ayo can help out without Caruso and Ball for right now. Kobe can play a little bit feisty on defense. He's been playing feisty on defense. But you got to do something about Vooch. You got to. Because he's not giving you enough offensively consistently enough to make up for what he's giving up defensively. It's just not going to work. Hopefully they figure it out. I have faith that they will. Glad the Hawks are figuring it out because it's tough to write about teams when they're both losing. Glad to see at least one keeping the afloat. And Hawks, man, let's keep it going. They could face the Lakers on Sunday to try to get win number 7. The Lakers beat them last game, but they can beat the Lakers. Come on, now, it's the Lakers. They can do this. They can do this. That's going to do it for this episode of Triple Zeros. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at JoshGBuck. Hit up the Facebook page, Clocker Sports, website, clockersports.com. Email address, clockersports@gmail.com. And be sure to follow the show on Facebook and Twitter at 30spod. That's the number 30spod. And, of course, read the stuff. Last Word on Pro Football. Pippin Ain't Easy. StoryNownSouth.com. And as always, man, you know what it is. I think I'm gone. That's the sound of the horns. We out.
That was a fun body bag game.